And as the church and Catholics around the world mourn the death of Pope Francis, we're also looking back on his 12 years as pontiff.
Joining us now with more on his legacy, John McCarthy, who served in the Biden administration as liaison to the Catholic Church. Welcome.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Many call Pope Francis the People's Pope. What were some of the most memorable moments that earned him that title?
Well, from the moment we met Pope Francis as he stepped onto the balcony in St. Peter's, he asked those who were gathered there to sit and pray for him. For Catholics around the world, having the Pope ask you to pray for them certainly has to be something that's incredibly meaningful. And that was kind of the underpinning of his entire pontificate. It wasn't about putting the spotlight on himself, but really even showing that even he, the Pope, needed the prayers and support of others.
John, Pope Francis was the first Latin American pope. Can you talk about what that symbolized for the church?
The Pope was really a Pope of firsts. Yes, he was the first the first Pope from Latin America, but he was also the first Jesuit. And really, at the end of the day, what that was showing that the church was moving away from kind of its European-centric history. Pope Francis was always a Pope of the peripheries, kind of using his platform to show a spotlight on those who felt otherwise marginalized or left out from the church. So the fact that, I mean, if you look at Latin America, it's one of the most emerging places for the Catholic Church, growing in population. So by virtue of him being from there, it showed that, the church was going to move into a different direction and was going to look and feel very different.
Even him choosing the name Francis had him stand out from other modern popes.
Yes, exactly. Obviously, that was a nod to something that would be an early part of his pontificate. St. Francis was very active on issues of climate and animals and care for creation. So, that was something that Pope Francis adopted very early on.
So now looking ahead to choosing the next pope, what are the qualities cardinals will be looking for with their next pontiff?
It's important to recognize that the College of Cardinals who are gathering now, almost 2/3 of them were chosen by Pope Francis himself. So I would have to imagine that most of these people are looking for someone in his model. Pope Francis was really someone who was a pastor more than a politician. He reached out and used his office to be able to touch people's lives directly. I think that was something that really changed the tone and tenor of the church. And when people are looking for a successor, I think that type of spirit and that type of nature is going to be the thing that they're most looking for.
Is there one cardinal who you think may have the upper hand here?
Well, as people gather, they open up with a mass where they pray for the invocation of the Holy Spirit to look for guidance. So this isn't something you openly campaign for. That's frowned upon. So there are some people who are more obvious choices. There's Cardinal Parolin, the Cardinal Secretary of State, and then there's Cardinal Zuppi, who is the head of the Italian Bishops' Conference and has done a lot of work for the church on Ukraine. But most of these cardinals don't actually know each other. They're in their individual countries. So part of the reason they gather in Rome and gather, without cell phones, without access to the internet, and close themselves out from the world is because they actually need to take the time to get to know one another as pastors and make this very important decision of who's going to go ahead and lead the global church.
John McCarthy, former liaison to the Catholic Church, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
And the Pope's funeral on Saturday is